if I get one more article about how real estate is falling, crashing, popping, bursting, you name it, I'm going to It's not that serious, but it is really important for buyers and sellers to both understand exactly what is happening so that they can arm themselves with the information and take the necessary action if they are looking to make their move in real estate within the next 3 to 6 months. Before I get into the numbers, I want to talk a little bit about my opinion and things that I believe actually could cause the market to crash, because we're not seeing those things yet here in the city. But it's really important to know what things might actually play a part on a downward slope. And that's not to say that things are crashing or going to turn to shit within the next year. But again, having the information, having the knowledge, and being able to take action based on the information is something that's gonna help you get ahead when making your move. Now, the number one thing that I think could actually affect prices negatively is rising interest rates. If you haven't seen my video about it, you can check that out. One of the corners, I still haven't figured that out yet, but every 1% an interest rate does come up affects about 10 to 11% of affordability on your purchase when your next home when you're getting a mortgage. So in theory, if that number continues to keep going up and up and up and up after a while, yes, anyone that's planning on getting a mortgage and might be super price conscious about having that mortgage and the extra money that they're paying out to the bank or their lender, that would definitely affect those people and may even take them out of the market entirely. Now you can imagine if that happens, any buyer that is going all cash on a purchase isn't going to want to come close to the asking price because they know that they can submit an offer, not have to worry about paying extra in interest rates, and because they have less competition, they're going to be able to more likely get their purchase price accepted. And in essence, that really gives them extra leverage when they're going out to look for properties because they don't have to worry about interest rate. Now, with that being said, I can't necessarily say this leads to a crash. Even if the interest rates rose to a certain level that would slow people down from purchasing, they could just as easily reverse going back down, which would increase the amount of spending. Overall, we're seeing that on a week-to-week basis. It's not like that happens overnight. And not to mention, the banks and the lenders usually set their own rates. Sometimes you can do adjustable rate mortgages or a rate buy down or something else that could potentially help you get a better rate when you're working with your lender or your mortgage broker. And I know even certain banks and lenders are starting to offer like a 0% down situation. It's really like a seesaw of activity to interest rates. So this is something that could be reversible or could be strictly influenced by the person, whatever their situation is and what they think is most important to them when getting a mortgage on a home. And we've already started to see a little bit of the rates starting to drop and of uptick of the increase of buyer activity and the number of contracts signed. But there is another aspect that comes into play. Number 2 is inventory. You can only buy as much as is available to sell in real estate. Supply, demand. So if a seller right now is hearing all the terrible news about the real estate market, what sort of incentive do they have to list their home? And of course, that's amplified right now because we just had one of the, I don't want to say the worst, because again, historically speaking, we've had probably one of the best years in New York City real estate ever, but it was just less than what it could have been in the past 3 months. And that's why you see so much red on the charts when you're looking at the numbers, especially during the summer where everyone was out and vacationing and visiting friends in the first time in this semi-COVID free summer. Now, something that you wouldn't expect here is that the sellers who are actually coming to market, that hit the market in early September, they're actually being advised correctly by the agents that they're working with, and they are winning. They're having less days on market, they're getting their contracts signed, and they're coming pretty close, if not up to the price that they're actually asking for on their home. Not to mention, if you ask a couple people with their feet on the ground, there are even still in some neighborhoods and areas bidding wars on homes. Now, the only way that I could see inventory leading to a crash is if there is too much inventory inventory to go around. As more inventory comes to market, that would mean that more sellers have more competition with each other in order to actually sell their homes. And what better way to be competitive in a real estate atmosphere than a race to the pricing bottom? But again, the demand here in New York City is just so high that I really don't foresee this happening, at least in the next 3 to 6 months. There truly is an influx of people that are coming here to the city, and that shows when New York City's MTA ridership just had one of its record-setting riderships since the pandemic just a couple of weeks ago. People are returning to the office in droves, and rents are skyrocketing accordingly. Our average 2-bedroom rent right now is about $4,200 or a little bit over that in New York City and in Manhattan. And the point of me saying all this here is that if someone has the opportunity or the choice between renting and spending that much money per month or buying, right, people are gonna try to look to make their purchase as quickly as possible, as they should, because if you know you're gonna be somewhere for a specific period of time, why wouldn't you want to start investing in yourself, putting equity towards your own home, and being able to cash out with that equity to put on your next home when you go to sell? And not only that, again, if you're afraid that you're not gonna be able to live there, maybe you won't get the same value, maybe you have to move too early, what benefits you also in doing that is that you do have a place that if you have to leave the city for some reason, someone else will definitely rent your space out. Perks of buying a condo or a townhouse that you can rent out. Demand simply isn't going to just vanish, especially in one of the biggest cities in the entire world. Now, here's some data. When people saw that Q2 back in April, May, and June were having the strongest months, especially in New York City real estate ever, they decided to back off and they didn't want to participate in the immense competition that bidding wars were causing in a lot of areas and neighborhoods around New York City. That, coupled with the fact that, again, we've just had our semi-COVID free summer, you could see it in the numbers of late June, July, and August, where the number of sales is declining, the average sales price is declining, and the number of contracts signed is also declining. But now fall is here. People are back with vengeance. They are coming back before the end of the year. People have to do their 1031 exchanges. Some people, whatever they put on hold in the beginning of the year, they're coming back now to pick up where they left off. There's really no sense of a lessened amount of demand that I foresee within, especially September, October. You know, maybe we'll get our seasonal lulls as we had always done historically in the past in November and December, but there's really no reason for me to believe that demand overall is just going to pause or come to a slow halt. So all the people that are hearing all these headlines that prices are dropping, prices are falling, this, that, and the other thing, again, if you look at the data and realize that that may not apply to you here, it might change your tune about what your next steps are going to be in the future. So what's next? If you're a seller, what can you expect in the next couple of months? If you're a buyer, what should you do? If you're a landlord, how is any of this information relevant to you? I won't speculate past the end of 2022, A, because I don't have a crystal ball, but B, truthfully, if you are looking to make your move in real estate, I think the short-term action is going to help you yield long-term benefits. And let me tell you why. If you truly need to sell your home, I would do it as soon as possible. I'm not talking about testing a market to see if you can get the price that you really want. I'm talking about you have a new job somewhere, you are in a particularly difficult situation and you need your cash out of your house. I'm talking about anything that's going to force you to actually make a decision about your real estate asset. Why do I say right now is better time than ever? As long as the feds decide that they want to play with the interest rates, whether they go up or down, even again, since it's not a direct correlation in terms of the banks and what options people might be able to get for themselves, it still affects you if you have less buyers overall that are able to afford your property. About 70% of sales throughout Brooklyn were closed with a mortgage application attached to it. Again, when you're thinking about 7 out of your 10 buyers are now negatively affected by these rates, you have to think about the fact that it may actually take a little bit longer to find that particular buyer who isn't affected enough to actually spend the amount that you're looking to sell your property for. That's important when you are listing your home because, again, you want to have as many buyers as possible so that you have the opportunity to sell for the highest price and maybe even get a bidding war out of it. I'm not certain that rates are going to continue going up. However, we are still historically at lows with 6%. I know I've heard stories of my parents who were purchasing at rates at 10% and their parents who were looking at homes with rates of 18% or more. We're gonna hear stories about people that are sharing, where were you back in 2022 when rates were still at historic lows? With that in mind, as a buyer, I don't wanna wait till we're at the top or the peak to potentially make that decision if there's going to be a huge interest payment attached to it. I would just want to hedge my bet on making my next investment or moving forward with my next endeavor in order to actually accomplish my goals so that I can move on to the next chapter of my life. I want to make my transition as quickly as possible so that I can establish myself, lock in my rate, and in the future, if rates do come down, then great, I can refinance my purchase and all is merry. If the rates end up going up, well, at least my payments are going up because I locked myself in at whatever interest rate I have for my 30-year or whatever year mortgage that you end up going with. My goal personally is to make that transition into buying within the next year because
the rent is too damn high.
And at the end of the day, knowing that my payments are going to be increasing at the end of my lease term, instead where I could be using that money towards building my equity or putting money down towards an investment and having that build on itself after years of living in that space and not having to worry about increases as my rent might increase on the year-to-year basis. Whether you are all cash or financing to make this purchase, go out there and see your options. As I mentioned, I don't believe that there's going to be a ton of inventory out there to see. However, at any point that you can start working your way towards that goal, I think it is a good goal to have. Don't get hung up on finding the perfect unit. If you do find the perfect unit, that's awesome. In that case, you're one step closer to establishing yourself and building wealth in one of the greatest cities in the world. I mean, you could put it towards, some cryptocurrencies or maybe the stock market. Those items are, especially right now, a lot more volatile than real estate, and hedging your investment with something that will ultimately always give you returns as long as it is managed well and taken proper care of. Now, to anyone renting out there, I know I've put a lot of information and it may sound like a call for the end of New York City as we know it. The landlords specifically know that they're able to collect more, and for that they're asking more. And if they haven't been usurped on the other end with their utility costs and other costs that they may endure as a homeowner, hopefully they're making some profit along the way. If you are currently renting right now, let's get your head straight about real estate. Let's talk about how we can graduate you from paying someone else to start paying yourself. If you're not there yet, it's time to start thinking strategically about how you can get there. Start thinking about ways in your work or your business where you can increase the amount of income that you're getting and set you up for a better future. Maybe think about some options of who can help you towards the goal of homeownership so that you're not taking on all of the financial burden on yourself. There are tons of grants and opportunities that can help you move in that direction as quickly as possible. Start thinking about ways that you can get there without setting yourself back by making stupid or large purchases that would end up setting your goal for homeownership out far in the future. Opportunities for homeownership will come up and you need to be as ready as possible in order to seize them. To my landlords, keep doing what you're doing as long as you're being nice and respectful and your tenants are also being nice and respectful to you. It's a two-way street. Be ready to transact if growing or upscaling or increasing your income is something that you're looking to do. If you ask people like Andrew Lieb, who is one of my favorite lawyers, authors, and podcast hosts who talks about 10 ways to purchase real estate post-pandemic, you really want to get your cash and your funds right. And if that does mean selling now in order to get there, just so that you can have the cash on hand so that you might be able to take advantage of some opportunities if they are to come up in the future, that's one thing that you have to think about. Again, it's a risk versus reward thing. Are the exact opportunities that you're going to be looking for going to come up? Can't necessarily speak to that, especially if it's going to be in the next 3 months. But again, if you can take advantage of the situation as it presents itself now, you won't be caught with your pants down or caught not being able to make an advancement forward when those opportunities do arise in the future. I think I got it all out. I think that's everything that I wanted to cover, and honestly, I want to hear your feedback. If there's any thoughts or ideas that you have after me sharing this information with you, please reach out, throw it in the comments. I would love to maybe even decide my next topic or the next market report, focus on things that really matter to you as a home buyer, home seller, a landlord, or a renter, and discuss how those things might be affected in the next coming month. If you love videos like these and you would want more like them in the future, please like and subscribe. And honestly, I don't expect everyone to do that, but it really helps me out, and I love getting this information out to people. I'm all about the numbers and the data, and market reports do take a little bit of time to put together, but honestly, if they really help you and help the world understand what's happening in New York City and why it's different from everything else that's happening in the US, that is my goal. And thank you so much for watching Easy NYC Real Estate, where I make New York City real estate easy for you. I'll see you in the next one.